Sprint 2. At this point in the seminar, when taught in a 2-day format, we are just returning from lunch. If you're needing a light meal break, consider taking it now. If you have just completed a break, welcome back. Breaks play an important role in keeping attention and learning optimized. After a break, attendees are typically cheerful, but will soon be tired, even a little sleepy, as the blood is diverted from their brain to their stomachs to aid digestion. It is important as an instructor to have a gentle exercise up and moving around the room about 30 minutes after returning from lunch. Avoid questions and answers at this time, which can be low energy and mentally sluggish for about the next 90 minutes. As an instructor, it's easy to lose the inertia of the class. And when people are low energy, sometimes the questions are less charitable and just take longer to answer and even to be asked. Fine to take all questions, but now is not an optimal time energetically. It breaks up the rhythm and flow and reduces the rhythm and flow of the course. Coffee and caffeinated tea help a lot here, as does smaller lunch portions. Smaller lunch portions can be accomplished by notifying attendees that an enjoyable and healthy snack will be served at 3 p.m., following a light lunch provided at 12:30 p.m. Please enjoy this tip that encourages attendees to be more happy. When serving a light lunch, serve the food on sophisticated looking plates with precisely placed silverware and napkins. Some attendees do not seem to notice, but in general, attending to these details seems to result in improved attendee attention to the food placement and encourage a slower, more thoughtful eating, which does seem to make some attendees, I actually think almost all, appreciate what is there more and feel satisfied, even if they are still slightly hungry, which is also reassured when you indicate or remind them that snacks, preferably desirable and healthy ones, will be served in just about 2 hours with coffee, tea, sparkling water, etc. This really seems to matter. Even if I'm in a venue where I only have paper plates, folding precisely napkins on a 90 angle to make a cute triangle and putting it in just the same place on each paper plate even really changes how people react to the food. And it seems, I believe, they chew more thoroughly, smaller bite size, and it maintains a more even flow in their energy. Less blood is diverted to their stomach versus their brain, the digestion, and they're more engaged. The class rhythm is higher, the adventurousness, the excitement of the class is higher, and very importantly, the positivity of the class is higher, which has been demonstrated to aid learning outcomes, the effectiveness of the learning, and I've shown some of the science about that elsewhere in the book. Okay, we're back from lunch. We've just announced Sprint 2's beginning in a gentle, welcoming way. And now we're going to do Scrum Rotate. This is one of the ways to get attendees in a gentle but useful way up and moving around. Scrum Rotate. Starting a sprint together is an exercise that takes about 4 minutes. And when done effectively, it also reinforces many key behaviors. We will conduct the same sprint start tomorrow morning and tomorrow after lunch. First, we ask everyone on the team to stand up, walk clockwise around their table, and sit down one seat past the seat they had been occupying, and then move their stuff. If you're doing this online, digitally, you can use a shared space and model this practice in your virtual environment, such as a virtual shared whiteboard where all participants can interact directly. So I do this currently through Miro, and they actually move Post-it notes around on the boards. And they actually rotate all the Post-it notes and then put them in different roles, buckets. Who's the next product owner, the next Scrum Master, the developers, usually there's more than one, they move over and one of them is now product owner or Scrum Master. And I do ask them to stand up, walk once around their chair before sitting down again. We'll talk about why in a moment. The slight change in seating position Asking them to move once, then again, helps shake the senses slightly more awake, creating a state of arousal, but not stress or drowsiness, which is what we want for engagement, what we want for learning. At the same time, this practice reinforces a lack of hierarchy. No one person gets the best view the whole class length, the whole experience of the class. And no one person gets the space where they must twist and look over their shoulder to see well for the entire class. And there is a health benefit. Everyone will be in a different position, avoiding their body cramping up or settling into the same place for long enough to cramp or kink or tense. Next, we ask the teams to update their Scrum board with a new product owner and new Scrum Master. During the course, 4 different people will play the Scrum Master and product owner roles. This again has multiple reinforcing effects. It shows that the Scrum roles are not titles, but are roles to be played that can be changed when helpful. This starts to weaken the idea that the workplace must have rigid titles, power bases, classes, castes, in-groups and out-groups. The attendees will see the Scrum seminar continues just fine, even when these roles are fluid. Someone must always play each of these roles, and their name must be clearly labeled in order, clearly labeled. Let's make that. All these could be shorter sentences. The labeling is in order to participate in group Scrum when called at various instances during the seminar. Further, rotating the roles together, actually, I think there's more brand awareness calling this group Agile. So that's a branding decision being made as this book is being edited. We'll see what the final result is, but I think it's going to be group Agile, actually. That seems to have more market awareness. To participate in group Agile when called at various instances during the seminar. Further, rotating the roles gives 4 people practice in all 3 roles. While not everyone gets to play every role, sometimes the teams are 6 people or even more, but I try not to get larger than 6 for the reasons discussed elsewhere in the book. While not everyone gets to play every role, as sometimes teams are as large as 6 people, this does increase the number of people in the room who have practiced all 3 Scrum roles, at least in simulation of those roles in our class. Our job as seminar trainer is to provide expert instruction and coaching, helping attendees play those roles in a way that will serve them in real business and real work going forward. We are constructing an egalitarian, classless work system for maximum business success. This may sound like an oxymoron. For those who wish for an egalitarian, classless, open, transparent workplace, if that workplace cannot be demonstrably far superior at achieving business goals than hierarchical, class-based, power-based defending fiefdom style companies or command and control style companies, it will be less prevalent in the free market. So what I'm saying here is if we want a transparent information, egalitarian office, it actually has to be superior at achieving business goals than another model, or the other model will win in the open market. That's science and levers of financial physics. Top-down, hierarchical, command and control, information hiding, and private meeting culture all reduce organizational agility. The ability to make a decision is not at the point that the information has just been discovered. So we've introduced lag time. So structurally, it is always inferior. So increasing decision-making rights responsibly always accelerates organizational agility, which currently is correlated with more money for the company. Reducing organizational agility, or speed to make change, cause speed to suffer when a business is faced with change. When the business rewards private dealings, rigid hierarchy, and command and control, agile competitors win. The free market rewards open and transparent working culture. The overwhelming financial evidence is that when free market forces are the dominant forces, speed of iteration is the ultimate determining factor of business performance. And speed of iteration increases with transparency, flexibility, and organizational flatness, provided the organization can execute with great speed. And that is where our Scrum Masters, trained in Group Agile, come in. Our Scrum Masters are professionals who've been trained just enough to be truly masters of rapid, high-quality execution in these open, agile workspaces. Yes, everyone can win now, and we are truly attempting to spread the best that is known for happiness, health, safety, comfort, security, and even love by winning in the market with an agile workplace. In our seminar, now at the start of Sprint 2, our newly labeled Sprint 2 Scrum Masters, one on each team, will now draw a new burn down chart for Sprint 2. Some classes will use a burn up chart. We'll talk more about why and the difference later. In brief, a burn down chart is for fixed scope, a burn up chart is for open scope. So it depends how I've chosen to run that class, but that's a larger conversation. The Scrum Masters follow the instructor, who explains each aspect as they draw the Sprint 2 burn down chart on a whiteboard or virtual whiteboard. The Scrum Masters will update their Sprint burn down chart as each backlog item is completed on their team Scrum board, while the instructor will update the group Agile board at the end of each module of the seminar, represented as each chapter in this book. So our seminars, when they're live, there's a post-it note representing each of the chapters in this book, and it follows the same format. Since this book was originally written, there have actually been some changes, but in a future version of this book, maybe they'll be brought in sync again. They're still pretty similar. For a 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. seminar, popular in Japan, the Sprint 2 burn down chart may look a lot like this. So it looks like the team is on a trend. Maybe Sprint 1, they finished 73 points is what it looks like. And they've just come back at lunch and it's now 1 o'clock. And they're going to go, in this case, until maybe 5 p.m. So their trend, not because we want it to be, our evidence from Sprint 1 showed us our trend is likely to be 73 points by 5 o'clock approximately. So now everyone has a set expectation, and that helps people relax. We have now completed a sprint, giving us a trend. The amount of completed points that meet our quality bar, our definition of done, each sprint, is our velocity. If sprints are smaller in length of time, and if sprints are similar in length of time, and with similar or the same team members on most teams, a 3-sprint rolling average is highly predictive as a trend of how much work will be completed in the next sprint. We have not yet completed 3 sprints to produce a meaningful rolling estimate. However, we will receive some value by anticipating Sprint 2 is likely to complete a similar amount of points as we completed in Sprint 1. For those of us not currently estimating in points and measuring velocity this way, please bear with us until we address this topic in Chapter 8, Estimate. Agilists who have recorded hundreds and in some cases thousands of sprints in the case of Group Agile with hundreds of teams, this can occur quite quickly, have noticed the statistical likelihood of the next sprint completing near the number of points completed in the last 3 sprints on average. This observation has been recorded as a pattern, a repeatable method for Scrum Masters to improve their business. This pattern has been given a name to make it memorable: yesterday's weather. The idea is that the weather tomorrow is statistically likely to be similar to the weather today. Here's the story, likely mythical, with no current citations found by our authors. However, it is useful to make the point clear and the pattern name memorable. Weather reporters, or meteorologists, in North America were graded on how accurate their reported predictions were. If the question was, will it rain tomorrow? The weather professionals had less than 50% accuracy. It was more accurate if the question was, will it more accurate if the question was, will it rain tomorrow? To ask instead, did it rain today? Then it will rain tomorrow. Wow, that's worded really confusingly. Editors, please help me if anyone would mind helping edit. Here's what I'm trying to say. If the story goes, if a meteorologist, a weather professional, were asked, will it rain tomorrow? Their accuracy of their predictions were less than 50% accurate. It was more accurate to flip a coin to answer the question, will it rain tomorrow, than to look at weather reports in North America at that time. Instead, there's a much more accurate question we can ask, and that is, did it rain today? If yes, there's a more than 50% chance it will rain tomorrow. If no, there is a more than 50% chance it won't rain tomorrow. This is what's called yesterday's weather. Taking a guess from today is more than 50% likely and more accurate than all of the mathematical modeling and radar-fed data that the meteorologists were using. Now, I couldn't find a single citation to prove this. It seems like a mythical story developed to poke fun at using science that didn't result in a statistically useful outcome. Not yet. The science wasn't good enough yet. In any case, the story makes the pattern memorable by saying, how many points did we finish last sprint? Well, we're likely to have a similar number of points the next sprint, and much more accurate, and there is good statistical evidence for this, is what's the running average of the last 3 sprints. Our next sprint is very likely to have a similar output in points, done, completed, tested work to the average of the last 3 sprints. And that pattern by Agile professionals is often called yesterday's weather. And in the book, a Scrum book, The Spirit of the Game, that pattern is cited with similar information to what I just shared. As early as the 1990s, software developers would joke that they could write an algorithm to predict the weather at 70% accuracy, simply by reporting the predicted weather tomorrow to be the same as the measured weather today. The application here for us Scrum Masters is that the velocity next sprint is likely to be very similar to the running average of the last 3 sprints. In sprint 1 in this seminar, we likely completed 73 points. This varies from seminar to seminar, depending on the speed of the instructor, if there is translation involved, the energy and enthusiasm of the participants, if the participants are guarded and skeptical, if a specific and likely well-intentioned question took the seminar off track early on, etc. In many seminars, however, sprint 1 does end with very near 73 points completed. And sprint 2 then starts by labeling our likely velocity trend for sprint 2, our yesterday's weather, which is 73. For a complete explanation of the yesterday's weather pattern and much more, we highly recommend the book Planning Extreme Programming by Kent Beck and Martin Fowler. Now we start sprint 2. Chapter 6, 353. First, the short version. Scrum has 3 roles, 5 events, and 3 artifacts, 11 parts in total. Some additional information. Originally, Scrum was 333. It was much shorter, less than 10 altogether. And I actually believe that is a superior format. Now, if you're going to pass a test from a credentialing organization, such as the Scrum Alliance, you'll need to know 353, this split provided here. That is more complete, and it helps us as professionals verify if we've missed something important. There's more checks in the checklist with 11 points to check. Truly, Scrum only needs 333, 9 points total. That's the 3 roles, and those events are then planning, daily stand-up, or sometimes called daily Scrum, and the demo. Demo is what we called it at the end of the sprint demo, actually just demo. And that was a combined review and retrospective. And then 3 artifacts, a long-range plan, the product backlog written in business language, the near-range plan, the sprint backlog written technically as a technical to-do list for the people doing the work, and the product, the thing we're making. And that's it, 333. That's actually what you need. But Esther Derby reported earlier on that some teams at Sprint Demo, or simply called Demo, were not actually showing the product in progress and only retrospecting, or not retrospecting and only showing the product in progress, or doing neither, just talking about what happened this sprint and not having anything working or retrospecting. This caused some early Scrum professionals to advocate for splitting demo into review and retrospective, or sprint review and sprint retrospective. So goes history. If your organization is not having trouble remembering to Kaizen or continuously improve, which is the goal of retrospective, and if they're actually finishing done tested increment, you can just have demo, which came from MIT's Media Lab. And it's a Scrum copies MIT Media Lab's Demo or Die piece at the end of each cycle. That's where this came from. And Daily Scrum is a daily meeting that's taken from Borland and research put out by Jim Copleen. And sprint planning is choosing which of these business goals are we going to split into a technical to-do list, our sprint plan, this sprint. So we do need that as our minimum viable planning if you're choosing to run Scrum. So you really only need 333. Because I want this to be a masterclass where you can achieve a professional credential by knowing this information, I will do the more detailed 353, the more modern split. Knowing 353 is the minimum to establish the framework of Scrum for your work. But this is a masterclass written for instructors and students who would like deep context and the principles and supporting studies, as well as the edge cases. So I'd like to be more complete. To be anti-fragile, to get stronger under change or stress, a Scrum team is able to survive and to thrive, even if the rest of the company disintegrates. This means Scrum includes the minimum viable bureaucracy to be a complete and productive company, including rapid evolution of the product itself to maximize customer visible value. A note from Joe Justice. In my 6 years working directly with Jeff Sutherland, the co-creator of Scrum, Jeff would start each seminar saying that the Scrum Guide is the bootstrap, the directions to get started. The purpose of Scrum is to achieve mastery, and it will start to look really weird, he would say. He would play a video of my friend, Jeremy Lightsmith, from Seattle, working at the Nordstrom Innovation Lab. In that video, the team, which includes Jeremy, thinks of a software product and builds it inside a Nordstrom store, which is a fashionable department store. In fact, they do it at the world headquarters in Seattle, the flagship store. In the sunglasses department, with real-time customer feedback and multiple releases a day. In the video, they have releases to the customer with customer feedback about every 45 minutes. So they're running a 45-minute release cycle, approximately. The team members look really excited, as do the customers. Jeff Sutherland said many times this video is the restate Scrum, the mastery state of Scrum. The team does not use the word Scrum nor visibly break any of for any described meeting or event, and they don't refer to each other by any defined Scrum role names. Why would the co-creator of Scrum endorse so strongly a video that has none of the 353 of the Scrum Guide? Because it's even faster and producing customer visible value. Directions like the Scrum Guide allow teams like the Nordstrom Innovation Lab team to get started all over the world every day. To be able to get to this speedy and happy state, starting with Scrum's 353 is a perfect or near perfect launchpad. Understanding why 353 works as well as it does lets us tune for even higher speed by evolving new practices specific to our context that are even faster. These faster practices are likely to evolve from a Scrum team because a Scrum team is a self-organizing team, a complex adaptive system with a two-layer process control for evolving with self-gathered transparent feedback. Skipping directly to faster practices is possible. Not every fast organization on the planet started as a formal 353 Scrum team. However, Scrum Masters are specifically trained in how to take a slow organization and systematically improve it one impediment at a time, making rescue not only possible but likely for organizations that feel stuck, uninspiring, or difficult to improve. We will invest the next chapter on the 3 roles of Scrum. Chapters 12, 13, 14, and 15 explain the 5 events of Scrum and 3 artifacts of Scrum. 353 is the complete explanation of the Scrum framework, our bootstrap or launchpad towards a hyper-productive organization formed of a highly available network of teams. Okay, some notes from me. Since I wrote this, I worked at Tesla, and I intentionally wrote this before I worked at Tesla so I could cement what I thought I knew at that time. Working at Tesla, there's no mandatory 353. I would often start groups using 353 because it's very clear and easy to learn. You can learn it in 2 days. However, Elon Musk is not walking around, or was not at that time, saying everyone needs to know Scrum. And there was no preference that I ever saw given to hiring someone with a Scrum credential or a license or an attribution over not having it. What's prioritized is people with a history of working broadly, not being narrowly focused, like I only draw 3D models, but people who draw 3D models and also then machine them. They're cross-functional. They'll also call suppliers and attempt to negotiate a better price. And they'll also get their machine unstuck and clean their machines and the machine next to it. There's emphasis on hiring people that are happy to do that, to work broadly and not in a single skill or single operation. Then there's even more priority given to people who've completed projects before. If someone has built their own drone and written some of the software for their drone, and they even experimented with different types of adhesives on their drone to find something that was weather rated and they could submerge the drone, that's a person that's very likely to get hired over any certification program or any credentialing institution or any degree. So Tesla focuses on people, and SpaceX and the Boring Company and OpenAI focus on people with a track record of working cross-functionally on multiple skills, interest in working on multiple skills, and who got something all the way to done. So they got a complete cycle done. Now, Scrum fits perfectly in that. A sprint cycle means something is done and tested, and the team tries to complete all steps themselves, so they don't have to wait on other teams. Yes, they rely on services from other organizations and suppliers and vendors sometimes, but they try to be able to finish everything themselves. It's faster that way. There's less wait states, there's less queuing. So I found me using Scrum in Tesla and spinning up teams this way was super effective. It was definitely not required, and there were a lot of teams that didn't use any Scrum. What did matter is that teams got all the way to done and worked cross-functionally, and Scrum set themselves in a great position to do that. So I will still highly recommend the 353 of Scrum. And the superpower of Scrum, I do believe, is when an organization has trouble getting something actually done and tested and released. Maybe they can't even do it in a month. Maybe it's a hardware company and they have 2.5-year new product development cycles before something reaches production. That's a perfect area to train everyone in Scrum and relaunch that entire organization as a highly available network of teams, which we'll go through step by step in chapter 16, switch, how to switch a waterfall or long range, more than 1 month release cycle company to these nimble agile companies. So let's enjoy building our way all the way up to chapter 16.